Hi, and welcome to today's Whisky Apocalypse podcast. And we're talking about the best whisky in the world ever. So, first thing, I was asked the other day what my favourite whisky was, and I really couldn't think because there are so many out there, and I do drink quite a lot of whiskies, different types of whisky. I really like Glenfiddich 26 and Bunnahabhain 25. But I can't afford those, so I only have the odd glass, and usually it's bought for me. I really like Bailey Nickel Jarvie, an old blend, and I really like the Ardbeg Blaster, first whisky that properly got me into peated whiskies, I think. But neither of those are made anymore, and the auction prices are 3 times what they were originally in the shops for, so I certainly wouldn't be paying those prices for it. So could they be a favourite? Then you have Glenfiddich 15, which I always have a bottle of. Or maybe something like Highland Park 12 or Bunnahabhain 12. You know, these whiskies that you see in every bar that you go into. So if there isn't a choice, you'll see a bottle of Highland Park 12. And it's steady. But is it a favourite? Dunno. Or maybe it's unicorn whiskies. I bought a bottle of McKinley's 12, which was a random auction buy. I actually bought it as part of a 3-bottle set, and I wanted one of the other bottles. It was an old grouse bottle I wanted. The McKinley's 12 was opened on a whim one night, and it was just fantastic. From start of the bottle to end, it was an absolutely perfect bottle of whisky. And never seen another one come up at auction. I've got a friend who's got a bottle, who's kept me a little bit. But again, is something a favourite if you've only tried it a handful of times? Or perhaps the one thimbleful of a 1960s Glen Grant I tried, which completely blew my socks off. It was just stunning. But how could that possibly be a favourite when you've never really had time to sit down with it? So I think the idea of a personal favourite or best in the world is, at best, a pretty subjective topic of conversation. And that gets me on to the very best whiskies in the world. Recently, one of the big German suppliers won a coveted title of best whisky in the world. It was a Lidl whisky. Queen Margot. Is it Queen Margot? Yeah, Queen Margot 8-year-old best Scotch whisky at the World Whisky Awards. However, that it just isn't the case. A few newspapers put it out as that, but it's not. What it actually won was best 12-year-old in the blended section, and I think it was like it had to be under sort of £25 as well, which often spirals out of control. And to credit to the shops, Lidl never said this. Lidl never came out with it. But it won, and plenty of newspapers, Huffington Post, Daily Mail, Evening Standard, all talked that this 15 quid bottle of whisky was the best in the world. Now, and every year a book comes out in which one man tells us all what the best whisky in the world is. Not what he thinks is the best whisky in the world, and certainly not what he's paid to say is the best whisky in the world. Oh no, not at all. But the best whisky in the world. He says this is the best whisky in the world. And for that particular year. And it's nonsense. Absolute nonsense. His opinion, perhaps. His opinion for money. And it's the same now with a lot of award shows. I found out a couple of years ago from a friend of mine who owns an independent bottler that whiskies whisky companies need to pay to have their whiskies put into these award shows. Some award shows are paid for by the big whisky makers. Not so much distilleries, but the huge corporate giants who own these companies help to pay for some of these events. So if they're paying for or sponsoring award ceremonies and one of their whiskies wins, it's like if a tree falls in the wood. Does it matter? Does it make a difference? If, say for instance, the Scotch Test Dummies, who are my favourite YouTubers, if they were to do an award ceremony and if they said a certain whisky was their favourite whisky of that year, if they said it was the best whisky of the year, would it drive up sales? Probably would. And I think that's a fair point, but then you do have to look at the other side. If someone says this is the best whisky in the world, and they promote a whisky as being the best whisky in the world, which I've done myself, and I've always made sure to be very clear that any whisky which I am personally saying is really good, where that whisky's come from, if I paid for it myself, if I've received a sample from a friend, or if I've received a sample or a bottle from an actual company. You have to be very, very careful. I have talked in various posts over at whiskyapocalypse.com about my whiskies of the year, but they're very much my own personal interpretations of what I enjoy. I'm not telling anybody else to go out and buy them. I don't think I've ever told anybody to go out and buy, certainly not much. So that's it. It's a pretty short podcast today. I've got a few more coming up. But that's it. Just be careful out there when you're buying and try not to believe too much you read in the press. I have been the Captain, and this has been a Whisky Apocalypse podcast.